Guys, it's Sarah, and today we are going to do a mid-month wrap-up. I asked on Instagram, I ran a little poll about what preferences were as far as wrap-ups go, because I have definitely noticed that this year my wrap-ups have gotten a lot longer. I'm talking a little bit more in depth about the books. I'm taking notes while I'm reading, which is helping me to remember things that I want to say about the book, because when I read a book in the beginning of the month and then I don't wrap it up till the end, sometimes I forget details that I wanted to mention. And so I've been taking notes in my planner, which has been helping me tremendously. So I feel like my wrap-ups have been more complete, which I'm very happy with. However, my videos are getting longer. I personally don't mind a long video if I have time to sit and watch it, but I wanted to ask preferences for you guys. Most of the feedback I got was, we don't care, you do what you want to do. Okay, fine. So that was very nice to hear. Thank you. But when I posted a poll, the majority, and I mean, we're talking, it was 45 to 55%. The majority did say shorter videos, like 2 shorter videos would be nice. So we're going to try it this month and see what I think. And if I like it, then maybe we'll do this going forward. But I do have 4 books to talk about today, and I'm excited to tell you about them. The first book I want to talk about is Genuine Fraud. This is by E. Lockhart. And this was one of my NetGalley picks that I picked out of my NetGalley jar. And for this one, I decided to go with the audiobook because it is very short. And I was thinking maybe I could knock it out in one day, which I did. And the audiobook narrator was Rebecca Soler, who was really good. This book follows Jewel, who is basically a woman living in disguise, if you will. I don't want to say undercover because she's not in the police force or anything like that, but she lives under different aliases and she's kind of on the run. And you get that feeling when the book opens up. She's at a resort and you get the feeling that someone is there tracking her, and then she starts getting that feeling too, and so she starts going on the run again. So the interesting thing about this book is that it's told backwards. So it starts at chapter 18 and then works its way down to chapter 1. And then chapter 19 is like an epilogue type thing. So that was kind of interesting. When I started listening to it, it was like chapter 18. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And then I was like, oh, we're going backwards. Got it. Okay. So that took a second, but I didn't mind it. And so we're following Jewel, and we see her take on different aliases, and we kind of, know that she's living this way, and then you kind of work your way backwards to figure out why she's living this way. Here's the problem I have with the book. I didn't understand why she was living this way. And I feel like that was the point of the book, was to get to the point where you understand what she's doing and why she's living this way. Something did happen in her childhood, which you get a glimpse of, but it wasn't elaborated on enough, I don't think. And I never understood her. I never understood why this was the path that she chose and why she felt she had to live like this. I never understood it. And I guess because of that, maybe I just didn't care very much because I never really got it. And yeah, so I mean, not that it wasn't enjoyable. I guess it was. I was interested, but I never felt like I was really invested in it at all because I didn't understand her. I didn't understand why. I wanted more of her past. I wanted more of the things that happened in her past. Why did those things happen? Because we never got those answers either. So I just felt like I had a lot of questions that never got answered. And so I was just kind of left with more question marks than exclamation points. So, I mean, I guess it was fine. I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was a quick read and I got it done. There are definite content warnings in here. There is some talk of suicide and death of family members. So that's definitely in here. And then our main character, because she's choosing to live this way, she is kind of obsessive about certain things, as far as like watching other people and doing things like that and mimicking them. So that's also something. I don't know that would be a content warning for anybody, but it could be. Next book that I finished is Keeper of the Lost Cities. This is by Shannon Messenger. This is the first book in the Keeper of the Lost Cities series. This is a middle grade series, and I actually talked about this a lot in my reading vlog that I posted recently, so I will leave that link down below if you haven't seen it. And I loved this book. I flew through it pretty quickly, actually. It's very easy to read. Again, it's middle grade, so it's something that I can usually devour pretty quickly. And we follow our main character, Sophie. And Sophie is living in San Diego. She's 12 years old. She has 2 parents. She has a sister. and she's being a normal teenager. Normal-ish, I'll say. She is a prodigy, so she is 12 years old, but she's also a senior in high school. And that definitely makes her stand out and makes her somewhat of a local celebrity, which she can't stand. She doesn't like being in the limelight. When Sophie was 5 years old, she got into an accident and hit her head, and it knocked her out. When she woke up, she realized that she was able to hear people's thoughts and hear them to the point where they overwhelm her very quickly, and she gets massive headaches because of it. And she has always been under the assumption that that accident caused this to happen. And she never talked about it to anybody. Nobody knows that she can hear other people's thoughts. That's something she kept to herself. They are on a school field trip one day, and she ends up running into a boy, and he recognizes her. And she just makes the assumption that, well, he only recognizes me because my name is all over the newspapers right now and blah, blah, blah. But no, he knows things about her that he shouldn't know. He knows that she can read minds. And so she doesn't understand who this boy is and why he knows this. And so they start the conversations and kind of figure things out. Come to find out, he is from an elf world where Sophie should be, because Sophie is an elf. And that's why she's able to read minds. And obviously Sophie never knew this. She's, her parents know that they gave birth to her and all these things. So she doesn't understand why she's an elf, but nobody else in her family is. And she just doesn't understand what's going on. So this boy takes her to the elven world, and then that's where she starts learning everything and all the things. I did not know going into this book that there was going to be a school setting, a magical school setting, and it made me so happy when I was reading it. That was such a nice surprise because that's one of my buzzwords, and I just never knew that that was in here. So that was fantastic. So there is a magical school element, and I loved that. I love watching somebody going into a magical school for the first time, never even realizing it was there, and then learning all the things, learning the skills, learning the magic system, learning the people. She's making friends and making enemies and doing all these things, and it was fantastic. And I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to give too much away. But Sophie is very special to this elven world, and she is learning exactly what that means, and you're learning it along with her. So it's really great. And you follow her adventures. You follow some dangerous situations she gets herself in, things that she can't help. And it was great. So one of the big things I really, really liked about this book was that, you have the elf world and the human world, and you see the differences. You see how the humans are viewed by the elves. But I really, really loved the way that her family was handled, because they have to be handled in a certain way because, Sophie is going to live in this elven world now, and they have to deal with the fact that this family is going to have a daughter who disappears completely. I love the way that it was handled. I thought it was fantastic and such a really great detail as well. So I thought that was done really, really well in here. And I loved Sophie. I loved all her friends. I loved the relationships that are being formed here. And I'm really, really excited to go on to the next book and read the next one. I also want to get my daughter Kaylin to read this because I think that she would really love it as well. And I thought it was great. I gave it 5 stars. Next one I have here is The House I Loved by Tatiana de Rosnay. I also read this in my reading vlog as well. And this is a book that I picked out of my TBR jar for my lowest rated book. So this was my lowest rated according to Goodreads. It's also a book that Lindsay sent me from our Christmas book exchange a couple years ago. So I've had it on my shelves for a couple years, and I'm really happy that I read it. It's very short. I read it really quickly. This is another one that I listened to on audiobook, and it was narrated by Kate Redding, and she did a great job. So the premise of this book is that we are set in the 1800s in Paris, and we are following a time when Paris was pretty much getting torn down and rebuilt back up. They were kind of restructuring the whole city to make it what it is today, to make it more functional. And we follow our main character, Rose, who has a house there. And her house is in a place where they are wanting to tear it down, and she does not want that to happen. She has a lot of memories in this house. She raised her family in this house, and she doesn't want to leave it. And she's trying to get the government to spare her house, and they are not listening to her. And so she ends up locking herself in the basement, kind of in a protest type thing, like, well, they can't tear the house down if there's a human in it, that kind of stuff. What really didn't work for me in this book is the way that it was told. This book is told in letters, part of it. It's told in letters from, Rose to different characters, from different characters to Rose, back and forth correspondence. So you're seeing all that stuff. But it's also told in the way that Rose is narrating the story. She's talking to her husband, who has passed away already. So she's talking to her dead husband. That's kind of the novel part of it. And then you get the letters in between as well. And I found myself getting really confused about, are we in a letter or is this Rose talking? And it was just, I don't know. I don't feel like it told the story well that way. It was a little bit harder to follow that way. And it jumped around a lot because a lot of the letters were like memories that were in different, not linear timeline type thing. So I was like, is this before or after, or what's going on? And I don't know. It didn't fully work for me. And it definitely hindered my enjoyment of the story. And I think because of the way that it was told, I felt like I was just hearing a story, and that was it. It wasn't something that I was invested in. It wasn't something that made me care about any of these people. And it felt like, I'm telling the story and you get to hear it. Congratulations. So I was like, I don't care. So, I ended up giving this one 2 stars. Didn't quite work for me. So I guess I agreed with the masses on this one, since this was my lowest rated, but it's okay. I'm glad I read it. And the last one I have to talk about is People Like Her. This is by Ellery Lloyd, and this is a book that I picked out of my TBR jar for the Book of the Month prompt, and I literally just went over and picked the shortest one. That was my strategy, and it worked. This is another one that I did listen to on audio, and I'm going to read the narrators' names to you because I don't want to mess them up. There's 3 of them. So this is narrated by Nathalie Boscom, Finley Robertson, and Anna Bentinick. So this one follows a woman who is a famous influencer on Instagram. She has a mommy page, if you will, or an account where she gives mothering advice and talks about all things, with mothers and kids and products and things to use. She gets a very, very big following, and she starts getting sponsored. She starts doing events. She starts getting sent products to try, all the things that an influencer can do, right? However, she is by no means a professional in any field at all. And she's just a regular woman who decided to start this blog, and it just blew up from there. So she has a huge following, and she is married and has 2 children. Her husband is a struggling novelist. He had one very popular novel back in the day, but is struggling to write a second novel. And you see him struggling with that. So he's not really bringing in the bread, if you will. It's her. Now, she ends up getting some weird things starting to happen around her and to her family. Just some really strange, unsettling things, and they kind of figure out that she might have a stalker. And it goes from there. Now, one thing I really liked about this book was that I liked the discussion behind what goes up on a social media platform is something that you choose to share with the world. It's not necessarily the truth. Or it could be the truth today, but tomorrow could be very different. Or, it's like, living the filtered life. Everything that you put out there is filtered, right? That's the idea here too. And so you're seeing what she's putting online and how people are responding to it versus what is actually happening in her life behind the scenes. Does she even have a happy marriage? She's showing you that she does, but does she really? Does she never get overwhelmed with her kids? But, it's a whole thing. And you're seeing, what's putting out there versus what's happening at home. And you're seeing those differences. And you're also seeing our main character, her name is Emmy, and she's making some really bad decisions that she believes are going to, get her popularity or get her this job that she wants and doing all these things. But they're really bad decisions that hurt a lot of people. And that was frustrating as well because she's choosing to make these decisions and she's choosing to hurt the people around her, but she makes them anyway. I also did enjoy seeing why she was being stalked, why this person decided to target her, and what happened, what the impact of that was. So that was something that I did enjoy as well, kind of finding out why this was happening to her, what were the events that set this off, to cause this to happen. So that's something I enjoyed too. So overall, my thoughts on this, I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was overly great. I was interested the whole time. It did get a little bit, there were definitely ups and downs with this. There were some parts that I was really interested in and I thought were pretty good. And then we would go down into kind of a boring part and I was just trying to get through that to get to a more interesting part again. So it was a little up and down for me with that one. But I thought it was fine. So I'm glad I read it. It was fine. There are definite content warnings in this book for obviously stalking. And there is also some miscarriages in here and postpartum depression and suicide. So that's something to keep in mind going into this book. It does cover those types of things. And I ended up giving this one 3 stars. Okay, guys, that is going to be it for me today. So those are 4 books that I've read in the month of April so far. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts were as well. What have you read so far in the month of April? How is your reading going? Mine is going pretty good still. I have some fun things coming up that I'm excited to share with you, and I'm going to keep on reading, obviously, for the rest of the month. And I will see you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.